Happy Friday, everybody. We're going to wrap this thing up. Just putting up a non-essential one, non-pressing issue one for the weekend. So, looking back at the one I did yesterday on SEO tips for resumes, got a great response. So I figure people must like the tips. So, wanted to touch on a different one today. There's some folks that have responded to me, reached out to me on LinkedIn, other connection ways, based on an opportunity that I had back a few months ago to speak at the local AWS user group. I was part of a panel there where we were talking about certifications, and there was 3 people on the panel who were very good technical resources, including one who works for Amazon, and so I felt like a fraud and an imposter hanging out with the smart kids for the night. But had a great discussion talking about AWS certifications specifically, and that opened the door to a more general conversation about certifications. So wanted to share my thoughts and feelings on that. I feel very strongly about it. And the certification companies, if any of you want to sponsor me, because you are going to love what I have to say, and I would just like to point out none of them currently sponsor me, but I will happily accept if any of them want to. My feelings on certifications. If you are a professional who is looking at getting like a Sun certification or any of the various Microsoft certifications or A+, or CCNA, CCNP, or PMI, or CSM, or CBAP, any of those certifications plus all the other ones that I'm leaving out or forgetting or missing or whatever, the question I get a lot, and I get this question a lot, is should I get fill in the blank certification? And my answer is always yes, absolutely you should. And here's why I say that. If you're asking me the question, should I get this certification, that means that you have thought about it at one point in time. And it's because it relates to the job that you currently do. Because nobody calls me up and says, hey, should I get a CBAP certification when they're a network engineer? That doesn't make any sense. So if you're thinking about it, if you've encountered it before, if you feel as though it would be beneficial to you, you are correct, it will. And here's why. Especially for whatever reason in the Cisco space, I've talked to people for years that say, I don't have a CCNA, I don't have a CCNP. If you put the test in front of me today, I'm sure I would pass it. I don't need a test to tell me that I know what I know. And they are correct. Absolutely. I'm a big proponent of that. I believe that you don't have to have a college degree. You don't have to have a certification to justify your level of expertise, experience, knowledge, etc. You don't. I'm a firm believer that that's nonsense. And I've met some of the most intelligent, some of the most capable, some of the highest performing people who didn't finish college or went for something entirely different or don't have certifications. That's absolutely the case. But here's why it's still important. The world of job seeking is littered with all sorts of pitfalls. And those pitfalls are ways that you will, in a vacuum, in a situation where you don't have the ability to showcase your own individual skills and abilities, you only have, say, a resume to lead, you only have, your previous experience in wherever you were, which is not necessarily always translatable to every situation, as a way of getting in the door. Okay, and this actually reaches back to the conversation yesterday about search engine optimization of your resume. The day will very likely come, if you are a project manager, for instance, that you will apply for a job. You will have great experience. It will look fantastic as a position. Someone else will have similar experience, similar years, similar salary price point or contract rate price point, and they will have a PMI and you won't. And they will get the job or they will get the interview because they have it. Now, are they necessarily better at their job? No reason to think that. But they may very well get the opportunity where you don't. And that's just the reality. That's something that you have to explore what is and what ought to be. What ought to be is everyone is judged based upon their merits, based upon the opportunity to showcase their individual skills and abilities. But what is companies look at resumes. Companies have to find ways of saying no to people often because they will put out a job and they will get a stack of resumes, and the stack of resumes needs to be whittled down to only the ones that they have time to review and to interview and to figure out who's going to be the fit. What's the easiest way to do that? Well, if you're trying to hire a network engineer and it's in Cisco products and you have a stack of resumes this tall, all of a sudden you just go, okay, who has CCNA, CCNP? Whoop, there you go. Those are the people who get reviewed. And it doesn't matter. Maybe they were the worst candidates in the pile, but they have it. And to someone who's a non-technical resourcer, to somebody who doesn't know better, or to someone who's just trying to make their job easier, someone who's trying to be more efficient with their time, they're going to rely upon those things. They just will. So, if you have the ability to do it, if you have the time to do it, if you have a company that will pay for you to do it, you have no excuse, right? You could say, oh, it takes time to do the tests, to do the research. It's worth it. Knock it off with the excuses. Go do it. If you work for a company that's not going to pay for it, think of it in these terms. Last I heard, CCNA, CCNPs, roughly like what, $3 grand, something like that, which is a chunk of change. That's a lot of money. That is. I don't mean to disparage that at all. But the impact that it's going to have on your earning potential year over year for years to come, you will make that $2,000 to $3,000 back and then some, okay? That is an investment in your future. That is an investment in your career. So, if you were eyeballing certifications, obviously, if it's just some fly-by-night organization and it has no bearing on the market and there's no validity to it and they're not accredited in any way or there's nothing substantial to them, ignore those. But for the regular ones, the Microsoft certifications, CCNA, CCNP, PMI, CBAP, et cetera, the legit ones, if you have the ability to do it, you should do it. It'll always pay off. You will be able to pad your salary, pad your rate on the basis of that in order to make back the expense of it. And you're talking about the time it takes to do it. You know, put in 5 hours a week studying for a few months. I mean, that's really not that big of a deal when you get right down to it. And I understand people have families, people have kids, people have other, responsibilities in their life. I do too. I'm in that same boat. But I understand, because I see it day to day, exactly how important this is and exactly how much of an impact it can make. And watching as people get passed over for interviews because the other candidates had the certifications when my candidates didn't. And I look at them and I say, this is the only reason you didn't get it. It's the only reason. There are places, state of Minnesota, great example. State of Minnesota, a lot of times they will release jobs. It'll say CBAP or PMI. If you don't have it, don't bother. And we'll submit candidates who are amazing and they won't get interviews. And we'll get the feedback and they'll say, didn't have PMI or CBAP. And then they'll look at us like we're jerks because we submitted candidates even though we knew not to without the certifications. Once again, I don't believe in it as a rule, but I understand the reality of it. So if you have questions about it, please send them to me. Also, anybody if wants to talk about any jobs, anything at all. And also go back and watch the videos that I've been posting, the jobs that I've actually specifically referenced, e-commerce developers, Cisco network engineers, change managers. Those things are still going on. Just because they're a couple days old doesn't mean that they're gone yet. Although if you see it come out, if you respond the same day or the next day, that makes your chances the best. But if you see some old videos or some jobs that I reference and want to find out if those are still going on, let me know. Would love to hear about it. Everybody have a great weekend. Take that to heart. Go get your certification, and we will see each other again on Monday. Thanks.